Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very exciting announcement to share with you all. So in realizing that Jane Austen's 250th birthday will be coming up in 2025, Anne from In Search of Wonder and I have decided to host a year-long read-along of Jane Austen's works and some of the works that have inspired her writing. So for each month of 2025, we will be reading either one of her books, or one of the books that inspired her works, or a book about her or the time in which she lived. We will also be posting extra videos throughout the year centered around Jane Austen. We'll be hosting some live streams and having some watch-alongs of different movie adaptations based on her books, all culminating towards a live birthday party for her in December. And we will be announcing what will be coming up in every month, the month before it happens, so you can join in for as many of those as you are able to or want to. In January, we will each be posting an extra video that is centered around Jane Austen, so you can keep your eye out for that one. But let's go ahead and get into the reading schedule so you know all the books that we're planning to read, so you can join in on as many of them as you want. Also, two more things before I get started. One, there will be a link to a graphic down in the description below on my Google Drive, where you can see all of the books that we're planning to read throughout the year, so you can keep track of it that way. And also, almost all of these books are available on Project Gutenberg. There are a few that aren't because they may be newer books instead of being books written by her, but most of them are on Project Gutenberg, so if you don't want to have to go out and buy all of these books, you don't have to. I will let you know which ones are not on Project Gutenberg, so you know which ones you would need to purchase if you do want to read them. And there are some months where you have multiple options on books that you can choose from, or you can just read all of the options. So for January, there are actually two options. The first is Pamela by Samuel Richardson, and this is an epistolary novel. And his novels inspired Jane Austen's epistolary style in her novels. The other option is The Lost Memoirs of Jane Austen by Siri James. I personally read The Secret Diaries of Charlotte Bronte by her earlier this year, really enjoyed it, and I knew I wanted to get to the Jane Austen one at some point, and apparently that's going to be 2025. This book is the story of Jane Austen's life, told from her perspective as if she had written memoirs at some point in her life that got lost to time. So Pamela will give us an idea of where Jane Austen came up with her epistolary style that she used, and The Lost Memoirs would give us an idea of what her life was like before we get into her novels. So you can read one or the other, or you can read both if you want to. Then in February, we will be reading her first published novel, which is Sense and Sensibility. And if you do read Pamela in January, in Sense and Sensibility, you will get to start seeing that epistolary style. Then in March, we will be reading Cecilia by Fanny Burney. Fanny Burney was one of Jane Austen's favorite authors, and there is also a line somewhere near the end of the book that became the inspiration for the title Pride and Prejudice, which, as you can probably then guess, means April's book is going to be Pride and Prejudice. Then in May, we will be reading Lover's Vows by Elizabeth Inchbald. And from what I understand, there are some things with the story that played into her writing of Mansfield Park. I don't know if she took plot ideas or character ideas, but there were some ideas from it that she took and used in Mansfield Park. So we will be reading that one in May, and then following it up with Mansfield Park in June. And then in July, with it being Jane Austen July, we wanted to make sure we were reading a Jane Austen novel, so we will be reading Emma. Then in August, you will actually have three choices. Your options are to read either The Letters of Jane Austen, which is on Project Gutenberg, The Prayers of Jane Austen, which unfortunately you would have to purchase. It's not on Project Gutenberg. Or you can read her poetry. And her poetry is not on Project Gutenberg, but there are a couple other websites that do have all of her poems. She wrote about 13 or 14 poems, so there's not a lot of them. And I will have links to those websites down in the description below, so you can check them out there. But you can read them for free. So once again, like January, you can read 1, 2, or all 3 of these options. Then in September, we will go back to her novels and read Persuasion. In October, we will be reading The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe, which is a Gothic novel, and Anne Radcliffe was also one of the authors that Jane Austen really liked and took inspiration from. So we're reading that one in October and then following it up with Northanger Abbey in November, which was kind of Jane Austen's play on the Gothic genre, or poking fun at some of the themes in the Gothic genre, I guess you could say. Then in December, we once again have 3 options. The first one is Lady Susan. Now, I'm pretty sure I remember there being a read-along of this book on BookTube sometime within the last year. And so if you're not interested in reading Lady Susan again, or you're just not interested in general, or you want some other options, there are 2 other books that you could potentially read in December. The first one is A Jane Austen Christmas, Seasons of Romance, Ribbons, and Mistletoe. And this book goes into things that happened in the various Decembers of Jane Austen's life. So her birthday is in December, so it talks about some of her birthdays, different Christmases that she had, different romantic experiences that may have started or ended in December, and different things like that. So, like the memoirs of Jane Austen, this is going to go more into aspects of her life, but centered specifically around December. Then the third option is also titled A Jane Austen Christmas, but it is subtitled Regency Christmas Traditions. And this book focuses on what were the Christmas traditions during the time in which Jane Austen lived. And I forgot to say, I'm sorry, but the Seasons of Romance, Ribbons, and Mistletoe book is by Maria Grace, and the Regency Christmas Traditions is by Carlo DeVito. And unfortunately, neither one of those is on Project Gutenberg because they are newer books, so those would have to be purchased, unless you can find them at your library or through your library app. So those are all of the books we are planning to read in 2025 to celebrate Jane Austen's 250th birthday. I would love it if you guys would join us. And also, I will have Anne's announcement video linked down in the description below, so you can go check out hers as well. Again, all of the graphics and links to everything will be down in the description. I'll just have a link to Project Gutenberg, not to the individual stories, because there's quite a few of them. And I will have Amazon links to everything else that is not on Project Gutenberg, or the poetry websites. So I'm very much looking forward to co-hosting this with Anne this next year, and getting to read some more Jane Austen, because as you'll kind of see in our January video, one of us is a Jane Austen veteran and one of us is very much a Jane Austen newbie. And I'll let you figure out which one is which, in case you haven't already. So I hope you will join us in reading these books and join us for some of the watch-alongs, which I also forgot to mention will be happening on Anne's Discord. So I'll have that link down in the description below as well. And also for our live streams and everything else we have going on as we celebrate Jane Austen's birthday. Other than that, I hope you all are having a wonderful Christmas season, and I'll see you later.